In a world desperate to tear itself apart, only one man, and some other people, stand in the way of total destruction. Together they will right the wrongs, make bad, good, and single-handedly destroy evil, together. Who is this man, you may ask? This man is Jeff.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Jeff Jones and Friends Make It Better, the show that takes life's little annoyances, cooks far too much pasta, adds some other ingredients, some cheese, some more cheese, and maybe a bit more cheese, and quite simply makes it better. On this episode, I'm joined by Dan Churchley, magician, comedian, and all-round comedy entertainer. Dan, how are you doing this evening?
I'm really well, thank you. It's good to catch up with you. Nice.
It's very nice, and so good. I'm glad. We've had a little catch up before this. I was glad to hear that you are well. I really appreciate you joining me for this episode. And please, let's get straight into it and tell me, what are we making better today?
Okay, so I've had a good old think about this, and I thought, what in the world would I make better? And I've gone for a classic today, so I'm very passionate about, and it is the British pub.
The British pub. So you spend a lot of time in this, doing over the years of entertaining, stand up, various MCing and bits and pieces. So you spent more time than the average person in a local pub. Normally I wouldn't like that label, but do you know what? The way you put it, brilliant. Yeah, I do spend a lot of time in pubs. Yes, it's for work and research purposes.
It was all leading up to this moment in time. That is the reason for those poor decisions.
All those hours in the pub is purely for this moment.
I do. I host a couple of quiz nights a week. I love doing that. I'm not a huge performer compared to what I used to be due to sort of my family circumstances. I like a good pub. I'm not into a Stabby Joe's or anything like that. I do like I like a nice pub. I think most people do. It's a social thing. I've always sort of been that way, where I'd rather go to a pub, have a chat with a group of mates, than like a raving nightclub.
Yeah.
Like when I was younger, there was a time and a place for that. That's fine. But I'm a social person. I nearly said socialist then. Divide the audience on the spot.
Is the pub as... I mean, I don't know about you. I'm gonna just say that I'm circling 40. Is the pub, as you describe it, being able to go somewhere and have a chat, unless it's a big chain, like, I don't know, are pubs the same as they used to be?
My feel is no, they are not. There are exceptions, of course, and there are some very nice pubs out there. And I think, I'll be honest, I've got a list. There's a lot of rants coming up. There really is, and I've got some really big ideas in my little mind. I think on a whole, the pub industry's been through a lot, even more so in the last few years. The cost of living, the rises in the costs of pints, and the breweries are screwing the pub industry over. I remember talking to a veteran. I live in Portsmouth, and I remember talking to a veteran about 5-6 years ago. It was after one of the D-Day anniversaries, and he was telling me, he's like, he's like, where are you from? Sort of thing. I was like, I live in Portsmouth. He was like, oh, amazing, And he's like, and he had this thing. He's like, it's so different. And apparently, at the end of the Second World War, there were over 1,000 pubs on the Isle of Portsea.
Wow,
1,000. There are now in the region of about 300 and something, and a lot of them I wouldn't say are pubs. They're more bars. That includes your cocktail bars and stuff like that. And it is a city, where I'm from, and you can look on every street corner, and there are other places in the UK like this. Definitely, I know Gospel's a bit like that as well, obviously, in the PO postcode. But you can see the flats and the shops and every other street corner. There used to be a pub at the end of every road in Portsmouth back in the day,
and it's still got that little look. The ones that they've just tried to convert from a pub into something else, and it's still got that look, and it's bit of nostalgia. I mean,
there's a bit of me. Sorry.
No. This is your platform. I love the fact that you've got a lot to say.
It's a bit of me that's always been like, I love and maybe it is a bit of a traditional thing. Maybe I've watched a bit too much EastEnders over the years. But there's a bit of me that's always loved the idea of, you know, your local landlord that you get on with, and I've met these characters. Like, I love the characters of your local pub. I did briefly live in a pub at one point as well. I was doing the quiz in my local for a while, and sure enough, the flat upstairs was up for rent.
You just didn't leave.
I thought, I'll take that. It's cheap, and it had some advantages. They could never kick me out because I lived there. And I just knew everyone. And that particular pub, it had all your classic characters. You know, it had your inappropriate granddads. It had your old gents that come in for the half pint at 4 p.m. with the dog, and then head straight home. And there was a retired magician in there. I used to just love talking to him. My son took his first steps in that pub.
Yeah.
My daughter was conceived in that pub. So, you know, good,
upstairs.
Good times.
Upstairs.
Yeah. You know, yeah. I wasn't banned from the pool table or anything. But do you know? I've never said something that's left my mouth and thought, God, I sound like such a geezer now.
Yeah, you do.
Lads.
I idolize you now. You're living a dream.
I finally found my masculinity, and I'm just hoping it's not toxic. I believe it. I just love a chat, and that, you know, that I don't get to go to the pub as often now outside work because I have children. That's how that works. I used to just go to the pub, and this might sound crazy, but let's go to the pub, and I know I'd bump into somebody I knew. It was a community thing.
Yeah.
And it was the same 150 faces. You never saw them all at once, but you know, at least 20 of them will be in there any given night.
Yeah,
and you just have a laugh. And I love the pub quiz. I'm a comedian that does a lot of pub quizzes. I supply a few others out and about, and I love them. I absolutely love them. You get to talk in a microphone for 2 hours, have a couple of drinks, and get paid for it. It's fun.
I think the pub quiz is a quintessentially British thing. I'm sure they have pub quizzes elsewhere, but generally that's because some Brit's gone abroad and be like, you know what this place needs? There's a pub quiz. And they start a pub quiz, and no one's ever argued with them. And they just, they just can. Pub quiz is.
And the one side, but no one's taking it that seriously. Maybe the odd, if the eggheads walked in, they'd never come back. They'd be like, this isn't for us. Why is the pitch around famous ginger people? I don't understand. Like,
do you know what?
What's going on?
About 8, maybe 9 years ago, I went to a pub quiz at a pub in, I don't know, so, okay, you may know this because you're local, but Waterlooville, kind of Horndean, called the Panther.
Rings a bell.
Yeah.
It's a bit outside the city, but
it's across the bridges, so you may not know, but
don't leave the island often these days. Just medical appointments.
Just medical. Yeah, of course, yeah, but even that's classed as the PA. Good old representing QA on the podcast. But we went. Me and my wife went to this quiz as guests of friends, and we turn up there, and we are nailing this quiz. Absolutely.
Nice.
The sport round, I've been all over it, and we are proper happy with ourselves. Come to doing the scoring at the end of it, and we're getting them all wrong. And all of the kind of, pop culture ones we're getting wrong. Okay. And sport ones. And we're like, look, one of them was like, who played in the Champions League final? In fact, actually, I can date this because the year before, so this was just after the 2007. So this was 2008 because the Champions League final of 2007 was AC Milan versus Liverpool. AC Milan got their revenge, and this was 2008 because there was a question of who was in the Champions League final or who won the Champions League final. I was like, I know this. I watched it. I'm a Liverpool fan. Got it wrong. I was like, there's no way it's wrong. Oh no, everyone knows the quiz is a year out of date. I'm like, so the questions were for 2 years old. I'm like, you can't do that.
Just subscribe to a new quiz. What's
that's they were first timers there. You've got to lay that out. You've got to say, look, everyone, our information is 2 years old. And so we were getting winners of Oscars wrong. We were
love it.
Yeah, okay. Oh my God, now I just realised how long ago that actually was.
That's the ultimate trolling. It's a quiz for time travelers. It
is.
I've never heard that before. It's a bit weird. I might do that one week just to annoy him.
Just to really piss him off, because do you know what? I've just realised that's 15 years. I was thinking 8, maybe 9 years ago. It's 15 years ago, and I still have a grudge about that. And I've never been back. Never been back to that pub.
So you should. So you should. And customer service is everything in these pubs. But yeah, like, I do think they're losing their touch. I think the quiz nights have come back a lot, particularly since the pandemic. They're booming in business. But yeah, there's a lot of sort of like your standard institutions in pubs that aren't. So Portsmouth, where I live, it's got a very good pool scene and a very good darts scene. So there's leagues and they're popular. And I have this sort of thing in my head, like I think every pub, there should be a criteria as to whether you can call yourself a proper pub. Because I think there's a difference between a bar. There's lots of places I like drinking in town, and Albert Road, and that's a nice bar, but it's not a pub.
Yeah.
Like that, I like that sort of that little tucked away old Victorian building. It could do with a lick of paint. Like some people be like, it's a bit of a shithole, but it's half shithole. Which is probably the most pompy thing I'm ever going to say. I feel the same way about Fratton Park and the city in general.
We know it's a shithole, but it's our shithole. That is,
it's exactly it.
I don't like anywhere where the music is. So I don't mind going to a bar. I don't mind music, but like you say, I prefer conversation. So if I've got to spend all night shouting over music to talk about the latest current events, then it's probably not for me anymore.
There's a few things anywhere with live music on the weekend. Fair enough, that's great. Get live music, but like during the week, sort of that. The quiz is okay, so you can have a bit of a conversation. It's social, isn't it? And it's a great way to catch up with friends. Quiz night. If I didn't host them, I'd certainly go to more. I really enjoy them. I will take some time off at some point and go visit some of the guys I work with that host quizzes, definitely, and nick their ideas. It's great. I love it all. But yeah, I do have a bit of a tick list. For me, like, if you haven't got a pool table, you're not a proper pub. What's that? You got a jukebox, but Don't Stop Me Now's not on there. You're not a proper pub, mate. No. You haven't got Madness's Greatest Hits. Get in the sea. You're not a proper pub. You're not a proper pub.
Yeah, if there's not just too much ABBA for that one drunk girl at about 10:45, then not a proper pub.
I think the word pub should be protected in the same way dietitian is. So if you're a dietitian, you have to be qualified to call yourself a dietitian. But if you call yourself a nutritionist, you don't need that's the difference between dietitian and nutritionist. Anyone can call himself a nutritionist. You need no qualifications. But if you call yourself a dietitian, from a legal standing, you have to have the qualifications in order to do that. Right. You might as well be, instead of dentist, you just be like, I'm the toothy person.
Like masseur and chiropractor.
Yeah, exactly that. It's exactly that. I think pub should be a protected term. I think there should be. I think if you've never said "get out of my pub," you can't be a landlord. I think that should be. It should be in the training. I think there should be like taxi drivers have got the knowledge.
Yeah.
I think there should be a landlord boot camp. So it's like various things. Get out of my pub. Difficult customer. The little and I'm all for this. The little eye roll they do and the slight tut at a customer when they order a big order and then they say at the end, and a Guinness. That I've seen some bar staff perfect that. I'm a big fan of it.
Big fan.
I think if you don't do that, you're not doing the job properly.
Definitely. Do you know what? Yeah. So when I was for the age of 18 to 21, 22, I was part of the management staff of a local pub. It was a local pub restaurant, but essentially,
you don't want to name them, do you? Are you going to dish the dirt?
I know, because I love the place. Unfortunately, like many, it doesn't exist anymore. But it was probably where I learned most about just life, about people, about communicating with different people, because it was a locals pub. So you have business owners, anything from people who own massive estate agency chains to local ones that you'd know, to kind of the builders, to the old university, like it was just so round.
You have that community pub. That's totally one of the things, and you become part of the family. You get students work behind the bar; they become part of the family. Almost, there's a guy for everything.
Get protected.
I've got friends from that pub. One of them works on CSI for Hampshire Constabulary, right? The other one's a plasterer. There's builders. It's obviously all your tradesman types. You get, you'll get a lot of that. They're like, we'll drink these profits.
Yeah.
And, you do get a little bit, and then you'll get teachers and also all walks of life. And it's great. And
a place like that, you don't need a bouncer because the regulars protect it. It's their place. It's totally, you're a custodian. It's their place. So I remember, people, outsiders coming in, some, nippers coming in. They have a few too many drinks and cause trouble. And literally the regulars are escorting them out of the premises.
Yeah. Yeah, it does happen, isn't it? And obviously every town and city's got those couple of pubs where you go, well, it's a bit different there. That's where everyone goes when they're banned from every other pub. The pub I was in was it had a bit of a reputation from 20, 30 years ago. It was like, that's a rough pub, that, and it wasn't. Very rarely saw trouble in there. No more than your normal other pub. It was a bit busy on match days, but we didn't really get much trouble. Matter of fact, we never really had trouble in football. We'd get more trouble on boxing. Boxing brings idiots in. And that's the only time. Yeah, but on the football, there'll be families running around. Everyone's having a good time. It's just a good atmosphere. Yeah, very rarely any trouble in football. And it's there are other places. There are other pubs. There's a lot of pubs around Fratton Park. There's a lot of other places. Idiots that want to cause trouble at football will go to. Yeah. And it's not this pub, despite its reputation. And I just love that. It's very bantery. Anything goes, and I'm very conscious. Like, obviously, I work in the entertainment and comedy industry, and there's a lot of what you can and can't say. And I've always had this sort of thing, and this debate comes up a lot with comedians. It's like, well, should anything be off limits on comedy? And my feel's always been like, if there's any malice behind it, then that's wrong. But that said, the comedy is changing, and particularly if you're putting stuff out on podcasts, on TV, or anything like that, you've got to consider a little bit more about what you're saying, how that's going to affect people, and will it stand the test of time? I don't think it's funny to be offensive, but you can be funny and offensive. It's a difficult one, but Definitely. It comes down to malice. If someone makes a joke on a subject, I don't personally think any subject should be off bounds. However, and many, you'll hear this many a time, and many people say it to me as well. The victim of that circumstances, or someone that can't help something horrific that's happened, should never be the butt of that joke. You punch up, not down. It's as simple as that. Because the second you do that, there's malice in it. But the pub, and I can't believe I'm going to say this on the podcast, but that is, for me, that, some people might go, okay, that's a bit of a toxic culture and that. But like, if there's one place you're going to hear that and you go, oh, it's not necessarily for me, that's the place, you know. It's kind of like walking into a roast battle. Anything goes. Yeah. But you're all in that agreement. No one's going to take it away from the pub, and nobody there is going to get offended. Yeah. It's the thing is, an unwritten contract.
And people who do get offended are generally people who haven't been there before, so they don't know what it's like. And you know what? They won't come again, which is fine. If something isn't for you, you don't go back. And that's what you're saying is something I've said on this podcast many times, is too many people actively seek out something to be offensive for. Oh, have you heard Ricky Gervais's new stand-up? He is offensive to X. And they say, well, no, because I don't like Ricky Gervais. Hang on, let me go and check it. Oh, yes, I'm now very offended by this. But, well, actually, Ricky Gervais, whether you like him or hate him, he crafts his jokes very well. Some better than others.
Yeah.
But essentially,
it's one of those comedians that comes up a lot on it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But if you don't enjoy his work, it's because you know what you're going to get. So don't actively seek it out and to get intentionally offended by it, much like a pub. Now, do you know what? My days of going to spit and sawdust pubs are over. Going to any pubs is pretty much over. But, that kind of environment where I may have my wife, I may have my children, I'm not going to actively seek it out because it might be a bit rowdier. Whereas now I'll probably pay £3 more to go for per pint to go for a quiet one.
If I was there and I have a group of friends that I knew really well, I mean, and somebody walked in that wasn't as familiar with that, a friend of a friend, and without testing the water, I wouldn't start saying things, or personally in that. And I'm nowhere near.
I don't have that filter.
As horrific as many of the things I've heard in pubs over the years. I've had some good material from pubs that I cannot perform.
Do you know what I actually came across?
Yeah, but people do.
I actually came across one of my. So there's a recording of me practicing a stand-up. Just I think it was a 5. Now I didn't actually play it, but the title was Happy New Year / Bestiality. And instantly I was like, oh, I remember.
I'm weirdly intrigued.
I was like, that was very much a gig of 2 halves. Like, like the reaction to the nice stuff. And that was, I mean, it was incredibly early, so I couldn't really read a room very well. And apparently the bestiality stuff was fine until I'm not going to say it actually on this because I can't give it as much context as I definitely would.
And that's about because genuine upset people go, hang on a minute, that's not appropriate. Yeah,
it's all about context
and is there manners behind it. And I think especially I know we're going off a tangent when you develop comedy material, you will write things and go, oh, hang on a minute, let's have a little look at that. And there's some stuff from my early years I'd never say on stage now.
Yeah.
And I'm not a particularly dark or blue comedian, but I did try it for a bit. And it doesn't work for me on stage. I've got a terribly dark sense of humor, very blue, but it's not my act. It will come out once every now and then, and it works as that because people don't expect it.
Yeah.
A bit like, oh shit, that's a bit cheeky for it. It's a bit of a spicy one, and then that's fine. I'll just move on, and I'm back to where I'm at, sort of thing. Much more sort of tongue in cheek. But I think it's a bit of a safe haven for that. And but I do think pubs should be a protected term. I think there should be some kind of boot camp, a proper qualification in order to be a landlord, some kind of certificate.
Yep. Yeah, and you've got to get the phrases. You've got to be able to pour a good Guinness. You also need to not mix soda for lemonade. That's important. Or vice versa. You need to know when a barrel needs change and how to change a good old-fashioned barrel.
I've got other ideas.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think they should time them. There should be there was a barmaid in the that pub at one point, and everyone just called her the Sloth. She was right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nice enough. Bloody dreadful. Didn't last long. In and out the door pretty quick.
If you try getting served at any cinema these days, those people work there now.
That's probably where she is.
Yeah. Running the cinema. Probably the one in Portsmouth, because I'll tell you what, they are slow.
Okay. I know. Anyway, we name no names.
Yeah.
So she was the Sloth, and that's it. You get nicknames from the pub as well. You got no idea. I've met people in the pub. I've got a friend, and we all call him Trigger. I met him at college in a pub from the age of about 17. That's right, I was a rebel. That pub shut down now for underage drinking. That's absolutely true. It's true. And I think I'd known this guy for about 5-6 years before I realised his name was Steve.
Yeah.
And he's obviously called Trigger because every now and then he says something a bit stupid.
Yeah.
It's and then that's another qualification of a pub. You've got to have these characters.
Yeah.
You've got to have your sort of you're like, oh, there's Miss Bouquet in the corner. I might not like her, but she's got a place. She's part of the furniture. Come on.
Yeah. And there's always the regulars that no one actually knows. Then they come in all the time, but they keep to themselves. Maybe a more elderly couple. They come in, she sits down, he goes to the bar, orders their drinks, they sit down, and no one knows their name because they don't interact. But you refer to them by their drink. So it's like, look, it's the pint and a half.
Yeah, you know the drink. You're like, oh, it's Mr. IPA over there.
Exactly, Mr. IPA and his wife white wine spritzer.
Yeah,
Are they
no,
coming?
yeah. There's people to stay that I will walk around town and I'll see them. We know the face, but I don't know the name. Everyone's mate. Yeah. I have a similar thing on holiday parks. I used to do holiday park gigs, and so for Haven Holidays, you used to have like the Fun Stars and that. And I used to do that job myself years ago. But they all do their hair and makeup the same way. The lads have all got their hair spiked up in the 90s. That's where it started. Yeah. And they all look the same, but everyone's mate. You know, all I will say is make fuck for name badges on holiday. I was like that because they all know who you are because your name's on the bloody poster, and you'll vaguely recognise it, and they're all lovely. I tell you, the standard of Fun Star coats is phenomenal. Like, you know, these people are hired on their personality that you very rarely meet. You know, a bad egg. You know, it's quite a selection process. A lot of people apply for that job, and the people get through tend to be really good people. So I've got all the time in the world for them. But
I wanted to work at a kind of a holiday camp, but purely on the basis that I thought I was like funny and an entertainer. Couldn't sing, can't dance. Like I got away with it. I thought. I bet you've got the dancing feet. I used to turn up at party dance rehearsals because I was a host, general, then worked my way into host, presenter, and through to management. I was never in the show team. I got dragged into a few shows because there was a female show team and they did a Grease rip-off. And they went, we really need some T-Birds. I was like, I'll get a bash. I do also love the fact that you went, it's a Grease rip-off. Like you had to just let that. It wasn't the official script. They
definitely. This wasn't Haven, by the way. This is another company. I won't name them. But yeah, they definitely used wording and stuff that they would not get away with at the lawyers. You can't do a Queen show and call it "We'll Rock You" and just do "We'll Rock You." You can't do that. They will come for you.
They come for you.
Yeah, they will. They will. You can't be doing that. You just nick the logo. I was like, that's a professional production. You shouldn't be doing that. It's like when they hire princesses out to parties, they're not allowed to call them Elsa because Elsa's a protected term by Disney with the costume.
Right.
So they have to say it's. Sorry, that's it. They can't say Frozen princesses. Sorry, because Frozen is protected.
Yeah.
For those characters.
Because no one was cold before.
Yeah. So they have to say Snow Princess or Ice Princess or the Winter Princess on all the places. But as soon as they're at the kids' party, they're like, Elsa's here.
Yeah.
And the kids all go mad. But they're not allowed to advertise it because Disney just basically have a massive team of really top-notch, well-paid lawyers that scroll through social media. And I've worked for a festival before that had to redo all of their posters. Yeah, really? Disney contacted them over Facebook, believe it or not. And they were like, that needs to go. We're going to sue you. And Disney's worth billions.
Yeah,
absolute billions. It's got to be one of the biggest companies in the world, isn't it? Certainly within entertainment. So they've got cruise ships, theme parks. You're not going to compete with them if you're doing a little festival in Bishop's Waltham. It's not. He's like, he's a lovely organizer. He's like, I didn't know. I spent all morning going around the whole town taking down posters. But yeah, people are funny about that. So I've so many tangents, Jeff. I do apologize.
No, don't, please don't. Literally, this is part of the course. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I would like to get your opinion because I've thought for quite a while. The death of the pub did come. We spoke about bars. Is as soon as they extended drinking hours to be able to. So you had places which were clubs back in the day. I don't even know if they have kind of clubs anymore. But because everywhere went to a bar because they could be open all day and then just turn up the music at night and then you drink longer. So and they serve a bit of food. So actually, you don't have. Obviously, the idea was the pub crawl. I mean, I remember you go to a pub from on a Saturday. You go from 12 till 3 or 11 till 3. And then they close in the afternoon, and you have to kind of think, "Oh my god, what we're going to do for the next 3 hours until they open again at 6?" You go home, you get changed, do that, right?
Yeah, pubs used to do that. Didn't they
did. Yeah. I'm getting the feeling I'm a lot older than you, Dan. And then you open at 6, and then you go, and then at between 10 and 11, So you're at your pub between 10 and 11. You get in the taxi, you hit downtown. Now you've got bars where they've got a bit of music, they've got a bit of food. They open midday, and you can be there all day. And then in the evening, they do various drinks offers at various times of the day. Keep you in there, keep the offers coming, and then the
money's often in the food in these places as well now.
Exactly, and then you can stay there, and then the food stops, the chairs go away, and it's party time with whatever the latest.
Yeah, that's your classic town central kind of pub, isn't it?
Yeah, and everyone gets kicked out at 3, but you don't need to go to a local pub anymore.
Yeah.
Where's the meat raffle? Where's the meat raffle?
Yeah, exactly. Bloody love a meat raffle. And when I lived in the pub, people get so drunk they forget to collect their meat. So me and my friend that lived upstairs would just have it. Is that if that's meat is unclaimed in 2 days, we're having that.
That's probably the extent you want to leave that meat, as well as the 2 days.
Yeah. Many we bought a slow cook pot. It was lovely. It was great. Chuck a joint of pork in there. We're having pulled pork this week.
Made the investment.
Dinner was always a surprise on the weekend, you know.
The investment purely based off of unclaimed meat, which said like that doesn't sound too.
This kid's starving in Gosport. I'm not letting it go to waste.
This kid's starving, definitely in Gosport. Right, then, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for that. The last thing to do is say, right, what are you up to at the moment, and where can we find you?
Well, I'm not at home wallowing in self-pity. I'm promoting my comedy nights, of course. The one I'm excited about in particular that's coming up is the King's Loft gig. It's the Gong Show. It's in Southsea on Albert Road. And it's on the 3rd of March is the first one. There's actually 3 throughout the year. Tickets will be available for them all on Eventbrite very soon, within the next day or so. So by the time this is released, they should very much be there. And it's hosted by myself. We'll have about 15 comedians on, and it's a concept quite simply. If you're not familiar with the Gong Show, it's a brutal concept. You can vote the acts off stage if you don't like them. The winner is whoever is on the longest. Or gets the loudest cheer at the end if they fulfill the full 6 minutes. I've done these a few times as a contestant and hosted. They're a lot of fun. They are really brutal at times. And if there's one thing I can say about Portsmouth, as someone that lives there and gets on with a lot of people there, it's not a forgiving city. I think that's a fair comment.
In all walks of life, Portsmouth is not a figure in city.
Most places on the coast, underneath as you walk in, it says, seaside town or city. Pompey. So, welcome to Pompey. You what? Yeah. That's pretty much it. But there we go. Yeah,
you what?
It is. That's it. Yeah. Don't make eye contact.
So welcome to Pompey. You what?
But at the same time, the loveliest characters you've ever met.
Very homely. I know, community-minded. Lovely city.
Yeah, it's just if you live more than 2 miles away, they just won't accept you.
Yeah.
But except for my comedy night, where I'll accept everybody of all walks of life.
I love that. That was nicely saved.
Come to my safe haven, and we're treasuring lightly.
I live in a PO postcode, and I'm not accepted in Portsmouth, so that's.
In Portsmouth will not accept that Cosham is in Portsmouth. It's not on the Isle of Portsea, despite the fact it's in Portsmouth City Borough. They have none of it. Absolutely none of it. Yeah. If
you live on Port, there's 2 ways into, or 2 bridges in and out of Portsmouth, and that's at least one too many. Dan, it's been absolutely amazing having you on. Thank you so much. All the best with the Gong shows and everything that's upcoming, and life in general.
Thank you. It's been really nice to catch up with you. I've listened to a good few of your podcasts, and I shall listen to many more. Maybe not this one. I'll just send it to my mum. She likes to know what I'm up to.
That's it. The only person listening to this is my stepdad anyway, so don't worry about it.
Great. It's really good to catch up with you, and I'm glad you're well. And other thing I will say, if anyone's listening to this way after 2023, when Jeff hits it big on the podcast, check out Silent Comedy's Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
We've got all our upcoming shows around Hampshire and Dorset on there. So yeah.
I'll put the link in the bio. So when people dig this up in 50 years' time and wonder what a podcast is and what comedy is, probably,
I'll be dead by then, mate.
Yeah. You'll be well. Hopefully not. But on that note,
it's a stressful life. Nah,
it's stressful.
30 years tops.
Dan, absolute pleasure. Everyone who's listening to this, thank you so much for joining us once again, and we'll see you next time on Jeff Jones and Friends Make It Better. It's goodbye from me, and say goodbye, Dan.
Goodbye, Dan.
Thank you very much. Take care.